Most people think of vitamins as innocent little health boosters, something you can take every day with breakfast and forget about, confident that you're doing something good for your body. We associate them with energy, immunity, stronger skin, and fewer illnesses. They're sold everywhere, grocery stores, pharmacies, and even gas stations, and promoted as essential for optimal health. So naturally, we assume there's no downside. But what if I told you that one of the most common vitamins, one that's included in almost every multivitamin and energy supplement, could actually be working against you, specifically by raising your blood sugar without you realizing it? Before we continue, I'd like to tell you about Diacelan, a powerful blend of 13 natural ingredients, each carefully selected for their proven ability to support healthy blood sugar levels, enhance insulin sensitivity, and promote overall wellness. You can read more on diacelan.com. This vitamin doesn't just nudge your numbers a little. It can interfere with insulin sensitivity, worsen glucose tolerance, and even trigger or accelerate conditions like prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. And the most dangerous part? Most people taking it believe they're doing something good for themselves. That's why today's topic is so important, not just for people already managing diabetes, but for anyone using supplements regularly. We're going to break down what this vitamin is, how it works in the body, and how it might be silently throwing off your metabolism, even if you eat healthy and exercise. The vitamin in question is vitamin B3, commonly known as niacin. It's a member of the water-soluble B vitamin family, which is vital for converting the food you eat into usable energy. Niacin supports metabolism, brain function, nervous system activity, and even cardiovascular health. It's naturally found in animal proteins like chicken, turkey, beef, and fish, but also in fortified grains, legumes, peanuts, and certain mushrooms. On the surface, it seems like a harmless and necessary part of our diet, and in small amounts, it truly is essential. So essential that a deficiency can lead to a disease called pellagra, which causes symptoms like skin rashes, digestive issues, and even mental confusion. But here's the twist. Niacin is one of the few vitamins that's often prescribed in megadoses to treat high cholesterol. In those large amounts, it begins to act more like a drug than a vitamin, changing how your liver processes fats, how your fat cells behave, and even how your body responds to insulin. So while it may improve some aspects of cardiovascular health, it can silently disrupt blood sugar control, often without any noticeable symptoms at first. To really understand why niacin becomes a problem, we have to look at what it does at the biochemical level. Niacin comes in two primary forms, nicotinic acid and niacinamide, both of which are precursors to coenzymes called NAD, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, and NADP. These molecules are involved in over 400 enzymatic reactions in the human body, including everything from DNA repair to the Krebs cycle to oxidative metabolism. Without NAD and NADP, your cells couldn't make ATP, the fuel that powers nearly all cellular activity. So yes, niacin is crucial, but at high doses, particularly when taken as supplements or prescription drugs, niacin can interfere with fat metabolism, increase free fatty acid release from adipose tissue, and overload the liver with substrates it has to process. These changes affect glucose metabolism because the liver also plays a central role in regulating blood sugar. When it becomes overwhelmed, it starts releasing more glucose into the bloodstream and becomes less responsive to insulin. This is how niacin, indirectly but powerfully, can begin to sabotage your blood sugar, even while you think you're improving your heart health or boosting your energy. The clinical effects of this are very real and well documented. Several large-scale studies have shown that high-dose niacin therapy increases fasting blood glucose and impairs insulin sensitivity. One prominent example comes from the atherothrombosis intervention in metabolic syndrome, with low HDL to high triglycerides, impact on global health outcomes, also known as the AIM-HIGH trial. This trial studied patients taking niacin for cardiovascular benefits and found that while their cholesterol profiles improved, a significant number developed new-onset diabetes. Another study published in Diabetes Care noted that patients receiving long-term niacin treatment had increased fasting insulin and glucose levels and reduced glucose tolerance, even if they started with normal metabolic profiles. What this tells us is that niacin can push people into insulin resistance even if they don't start out with any signs of blood sugar problems. It's like putting a slow leak in your metabolic system. It doesn't cause a dramatic crash right away, but over months or years, it steadily undermines your body's ability to regulate glucose efficiently. And here's the kicker. You don't need to be on prescription niacin for this to happen. While the therapeutic doses used for cholesterol, usually between 500 and 2,000 milligrams per day, are clearly linked to glucose issues, even moderate to high supplemental doses found in over-the-counter products can create problems over time. Consider this. The RDA for niacin is only 14 to 16 milligrams per day, yet many multivitamins contain 30 to 100 milligrams, and B-complex supplements often contain 100 to 200 milligrams per serving. Add in fortified foods like breakfast cereals, protein bars, and energy drinks, and your daily niacin intake could easily exceed 300 milligrams or more, even without realizing it. The FDA's tolerable upper limit, UL, for adults is 35 milligrams for nicotinic acid from supplements. Not because that's dangerous in terms of toxicity, but because it's the level where side effects like flushing, liver stress, and blood sugar changes start to occur. Yet many consumers go far beyond that amount daily thinking they're optimizing their health. The form of niacin matters too. Nicotinic acid is the form most likely to cause glucose elevation. But even niacinamide, which is marketed as non-flushing, can contribute to metabolic changes when taken in excess. Sustained release or time-release forms of niacin, which are supposed to reduce side effects like skin flushing, often accumulate in the liver, increasing the risk of toxicity and glucose dysregulation. These forms may trick you into thinking they're safer just because they're more comfortable to take, but they can actually be more harmful over time. And that's not the only concern. Niacin interacts with several other nutrients and enzymes in ways that are still being studied. It influences tryptophan metabolism, for example, which is connected to serotonin and mood regulation. It also affects methylation pathways, which are crucial for detoxification, gene expression, and neurological health. All of these interconnected systems mean that excessive niacin intake can have wide-reaching consequences, many of which aren't obvious at first glance, but can surface months or years down the line. Another hidden problem lies in fortified foods. In the US, Canada, and other developed nations, niacin is added to many processed and packaged grain-based products, like white bread, cereal, pasta, and snack bars, as part of a public health strategy to prevent nutrient deficiencies. While that worked to reduce diseases like pellagra in the early 20th century, today it means we're often getting too much niacin without trying. If you eat a lot of processed, refined, or enriched products, you may be consuming dozens of milligrams of niacin per day on top of what you're getting from supplements. And this excess is stored and processed in ways that can burden the liver and alter your metabolic equilibrium. For people with genetic susceptibilities like slow methylators or those with liver enzyme polymorphisms, this cumulative intake can have an even more pronounced effect. The body was never designed to handle such high doses of niacin on a daily basis from both food and pills, especially not indefinitely. Now let's talk about the people most at risk. If you have type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, or prediabetes, your insulin response is already compromised. Adding high doses of niacin can worsen your condition, potentially speeding up disease progression and making it harder to control your numbers, even with medication. But it's not just those with diagnosed blood sugar problems. Anyone who's overweight, sedentary, dealing with fatty liver disease, or under chronic stress is also at risk. Niacin-induced insulin resistance can act as the tipping point that converts a borderline case into a full-blown metabolic disorder. Older adults are also more vulnerable as their liver and pancreas function tends to decline naturally with age, making them more sensitive to fluctuations in insulin and glucose. And finally, fitness enthusiasts who take multiple performance-enhancing supplements like pre-workouts, recovery drinks, and energy boosters may be unknowingly stacking niacin throughout the day, pushing themselves into hidden hyperglycemia while trying to improve their health. If you're concerned that niacin might be affecting your blood sugar, there are some steps you can take. First, audit your supplement stack. Read the labels on everything. Your multivitamin, your B complex, your protein shakes, your energy drinks, even your protein bars. Add up the total amount of niacin you're getting every day from all sources, including food. If it's above 50 to 100 milligrams consistently, that's a red flag. Next, get some lab work done. Fasting glucose and A1C are good starting points, but also consider an oral glucose tolerance test, OGTT, or fasting insulin levels if you want a clearer picture of how your body is handling sugar. If your numbers are creeping up but your diet and exercise habits are solid, it may not be your lifestyle, it may be your supplements. So what should you do if you've identified niacin as a potential issue? The good news is that it's easy to scale back. Switch to a multivitamin with a lower dose of niacin, under 20 milligrams per serving, or take your B vitamins individually so you can control each dosage. There are also safer alternatives to niacin for managing cholesterol, including red yeast rice, omega-3s, berberine, and certain statins under a doctor's supervision. And of course, you can improve blood sugar regulation naturally through exercise, sleep, stress management, magnesium-rich foods, and fiber. Supporting liver health is also key, since the liver plays a central role in niacin metabolism and glucose balance. Drink plenty of water, avoid alcohol overload, and consider herbs like milk thistle or dandelion root to support detoxification. In conclusion, we've just unpacked a side of vitamin B3, niacin, that most people have never even considered. For decades, vitamins have been marketed to us as pure, uncomplicated health boosters. They're in multivitamins, energy drinks, fortified foods, and marketed under the promise of vitality, better metabolism, glowing skin, and sharper thinking. And while that's not entirely false, vitamins are essential, the deeper truth is far more nuanced. Just like with medications, the dose makes the difference between a remedy and a risk. And when it comes to niacin, that line is easier to cross than you might think. What's especially troubling is that this isn't just a theoretical issue. It's one with very real metabolic consequences that can play out quietly over time. Many people struggling with stubborn weight gain, insulin resistance, or unexplained spikes in blood sugar are often told to eat better or move more, but the hidden culprit might actually be sitting in their supplement cabinet. Think about how often we hear advice to take your vitamins as a blanket prescription for better health. It's well-meaning, but incomplete. Because the reality is, when you overload the body with compounds, even beneficial ones like niacin, you shift its balance. You make the liver work harder. You distort how cells respond to insulin. You may inadvertently raise your fasting glucose, even if you're eating clean and exercising every day. And what's most alarming, the very supplement that's marketed to protect your heart could be quietly damaging your metabolic health from the inside out. That's why it's so important to look beyond the label, to ask deeper questions about how nutrients interact, how much your body truly needs, and what's actually happening behind the scenes when you supplement your way to health. This doesn't mean niacin is bad. On the contrary, it's absolutely essential. But the conversation around it needs to be more honest, more science-backed, and more personalized. Not everyone needs the same doses. Not everyone metabolizes niacin the same way. And not everyone is aware that stacking a multivitamin, energy drink, and protein bar in a single day could push them into triple or quadruple the safe daily intake. Every single day, for years. It's not fear, it's information. And information is power. With the right knowledge, you can make better decisions for your body, support your health goals more intelligently, and protect yourself from unintended consequences that even your doctor might overlook if they're not asking the right questions.